guys, welcome back to the Highway City Community Science Center. We have a super fun lesson for you guys today and a really cool project too, and it's perfect for the springtime. All right, so since we're going to be learning about birds today, I wanted to invite a few of our bird friends to join us for this lesson. So this is a pheasant, and then this guy right here is a California condor. So I know a little bit more about California condors than I do about pheasants. California condors are mostly found in Pinnacles National Park, so the central coast of California. And they were actually in danger of going extinct. So they were not just endangered, there were very, very few of them left on the planet. But just recently, in the summer of 2020, more California condors were found over Sequoia National Park, which is about eastern California. And so it's really, really good news that we've been finding significantly more condors and that they've been spreading out over more forests. And we're really happy about that. Condors actually have a 6-foot wingspan, sometimes more than that. So if you can imagine a 6-foot tall person or somebody who's even taller than 6 feet, that's how long their wingspan is. It's really impressive. So if you haven't seen one and you happen to live in California, I would definitely recommend going to Pinnacles National Park to check it out. All right, so we're gonna talk about why chirping birds chirp, or sometimes we're going to be talking specifically about songbirds. So we'll do a little bit of interchanging here. But let's go over a little bit of linguistics first. A question that's on a lot of people's minds is, what makes human language different than animal language? We know that animals communicate, anything from a cat mewing or meowing to a dog barking to pheromones, which are scents that ants give each other when they're in danger or they're trying to give a path to food. So what makes human language different than animal language is that it's what we call recursive. That means that we can talk about things that are not in the here and now. For example, we can talk about things like, hey, I had a dream last night, or I really think that it's a good goal for you to do whatever it is that you might want to tell somebody to do. We can give advice and we can talk about things that are not directly in front of us. And so that's what makes human language super unique, is that it's recursive. It can talk about many different things in the past, many different things in the future, and things that are not right in front of us. There are some species of animals that seem to be able to do this as well. And a lot of biologists and linguists are looking into that, specifically in the dolphin family. So orcas and dolphins are working on that. So we are talking about chirping birds, but we do not believe that chirping birds or songbirds have recursive language, to our knowledge at the moment. So the next thing that they do have, though, is something called a critical period. And it's really interesting because they are the only species of animal that we've found that has this critical period, so to speak. A critical period means that if a person is not exposed to language within the first few years of their life, they will not be able to fully use language later in life. It's actually really important that we expose babies to language super, super early, whether that be sign language or verbal language, for them to be able to use language later in life. That's called a critical period. And what we've actually found is that songbirds also have a critical period. If for some reason songbirds are not exposed to the songs of other birds by a certain age in their development, they won't be able to sing or chirp the way that they should to communicate different things. They won't be able to use their own language. And so it is really interesting that even though we do not believe that birds have what we call a recursive language, that they do have this critical period. So another question is, when birds are chirping a lot, what are they trying to say? And we obviously don't know everything because we can't understand other species in general. Like, with a few exceptions, we generally can't understand other species. So sometimes birds get lonely and they might be calling for a mate. A lot of times, birds will chirp in the morning to show that they are awake, alert, and ready to defend their territory or their nest. So if anybody wants to attack them, they're chirping to say, hey, I'm not sleeping anymore. I'm going to put up a fight if you want to do that. They also chirp to indicate danger of any type. And sometimes, especially with young birds and babies, they chirp to indicate hunger. So these are just a few of the reasons that we know that chirping birds chirp. We've actually found that chirping birds chirp a little bit more in warm climates than they do in colder climates, and that sometimes they wake up really early and chirp just because of different temperature changes. And so I don't know if you happen to live in a warmer climate. In the spring, sometimes chirping birds will chirp in the middle of the night just because the temperature changes early and they get confused. So far before the sun comes up. All right, so let's get to the project. You saw it a little bit earlier in the video. We are going to make our own chirping birds. All right, so let's start by taking a look at our materials the way we always start. So we have a bird here. This bird should have a nail and a straw attached to it and 2 little holes for the eyes. These actually have a different function than just the eyes though. We should have a dowel that has this metal square at the end of it, just like this. We should have a bookmark that has a small hole drilled in the middle of it, just like that. And we should have a white string. All right, so this project is pretty easy to put together, especially at first. You're going to take your dowel that has the square on the end of it, just like this, and you're going to put it through the straw in your chirping bird. Now, you want the metal square to be at the front of your bird, so at the tip of this nail and by the eyes of the bird. You don't want it to be at the back. So I'm just going to put it in just like that. Should slide right in, and spin it a little just to make sure that it spins. If it doesn't spin, then that could make the project a little bit harder. All right, so mine is spinning. So now we're on to the next step. So you should have some masking tape that may have been provided to you by your community center or your school. And what you're going to do first, before you use the masking tape, is you're going to put your bookmark over the dowel. And you're going to do that right where you see that small hole drilled in. Now the hole is a little bit smaller than the dowel. And so it's going to fit in there pretty snugly. So you're going to have to wiggle it in a little bit. In fact, what you're doing right now is making it just a little bit bigger, just like that. Now you're going to take it back out because we are going to need to fold this, and we're going to need to put some tape on the dowel as well. So your hole should be just a little bit bigger, just like that, and you're going to take it off. So now you're going to take a small piece of masking tape, sorry about that, and you're not going to start in the middle of the tape like this. A lot of people are tempted to do that. You want to start at the end of the tape because it makes it a lot easier to roll. Now, also very important, you don't want it to be anywhere near the tail. Well, obviously it's going to be near it, but you don't want it to be very close to the tail. You want the bird to be able to go backward and forward and have a little bit of room to do that. So I would put your tape very close to the end of the dowel. See, now my bird has a lot more room to move backward and forward. So I'm going to start at the end of the tape, and I'm just going to roll the tape over my dowel. And what this is going to do is it's going to make it a lot thicker so that my bird's tail is a lot more likely to stay on, just like this. All right, so this is significantly thicker, and this should definitely help. We're probably going to use a little bit more tape afterward too. So you're going to want to start making your tail by making a V shape. In the middle of the V should be this hole that you see here. So you're just going to fold it into the letter V, just like this. So it should look like a V, and that hole should be at the bottom in the middle, just like that. And now you're going to want to take your V and turn it into an M. So the way you do this is you bend this downward just a little bit, so almost like you're making another V. You bend this downward. You don't have to crease it super well, but definitely crease it so that it makes a strong fold right there. And you're going to do the same thing to the other side. So you're going to bend it in the opposite direction so that you have a letter M. Make sure that you have that fold there so that it stays that way. So I'm just going to go over that again real quick. You have your V. You folded it like this diagonally to make a V. And you're going to fold diagonally a couple more times, one on each side, to make an M, just like this. It's very important that you do this because your bird's tail and your bird might not spin, or it might not chirp if you don't do this part. So this is extremely important to make an M, just like this. That's because we want the wind to get caught in our bird's tail. All right, so now we're going to take our hole and we're going to put it over the tape that we just made. So it's going to expand the hole just a little bit more than it was before. And it should be pretty sturdy, just like that. It shouldn't look like it's going to go too many places. It should be pretty sturdy, but we want to make sure of that. So you're going to take another piece of masking tape, and you're just going to rip it maybe so that it's very small, very, very small. And you're going to put it at the end of the tail so that this tail doesn't fall off. You're going to put it at the end of your dowel. But don't tape any part of your bookmark or the bird's tail, because then it won't be able to spin and then your project won't work. So we're really just doing this to make it so that this tail doesn't fall off. But if it's connected, if it's like sticking to it, it probably won't work as well. So just like this. All right. Now our next step is we're going to fold the bird in a particular way. So it's already folded in half just a little bit, so I want you to strengthen that crease just a bit so that it's folded in half more all the way like that. And then your next step is you are going to bend the wings down. So I would recommend you hold the bird with 2 of your fingers and your thumb, and then with your other hand, bend the wings downward, just like this. And you want to make sure that those creases are there. They don't have to be super sharp creases. I'm not asking you to fold it with your nail or anything like that, but you do want to make sure that these wings are bended down, because this will help with the spinning. Just like this. So I would spin it again just to make sure that it's working. And if you don't have this so far, I would do a little bit of a review to see maybe where you messed up and where you might want to review that step. All right, so your last step is pretty easy. You're going to take your string. You're going to take just one end of it. It does not matter which end. You're going to put it through one of the eyes, and you're going to put it through the other eye of your bird. So both of the eyes are going to have your string. And then flip your bird over, just like so. We're still at the end. We don't want to tie it in the middle because then we wouldn't have enough string to spin it around. And you're just going to tie a double knot. So if you don't know how to do that, you're just going to make a loop, a circle. You're going to cross your string to make a circle. And with the shorter piece, you're going to put it under the circle that you just made. And then you're going to do the exact same thing again, because just one knot is not strong enough. In fact, I might suggest maybe even 3 knots. We'll see. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to take the end of your string, and you're going to cross it with the other part of your string. And take the shorter end and put it underneath the circle that you just made, and pull the 2 ends. And I'm just going to do it one more time just for good measure to make sure that it doesn't fall off. Okay, so it should look just like this. Again, if you don't have something that looks like this, that's totally okay. I just recommend that you review the video and see which steps that you might need to repeat or do over. So now that our bird is finished, I want to make a little bit of a correction. So we are still going to make an M, but it shouldn't look like the way it did before. It should look like this. So what we had before was something like this, and that's not what we're looking for. So you want to bend one of the sides the opposite direction that you did before, so that it looks like that. This is really going to change your bird and affect the way that it spins. So just make sure that your bird's tail looks like an M like this, and it weaves in and out. So one of your flaps should be in the front, the other one should be in the back. Hey guys, all right. So I hope that you learned a little bit about chirping birds, about human language versus animal language, about critical periods, and what birds are trying to communicate when they chirp and make a song. But most of all, I hope that you have a really cool chirping bird just like this one. So if your bird is not spinning correctly, I want you to not fret. Just review the video a little bit and make sure that this tail is even and catching wind on both sides. Because if it's not catching wind on both sides, it's not going to spin the way we need it to spin. So I just want you to maybe troubleshoot it a little bit. Maybe you didn't bend your wings far enough backward. Just troubleshoot it if it's not spinning, and it should work by the end. If you have any questions for us, our information is right here. And in the meantime, I hope you enjoy your chirping bird.